Iran became desperate after Trump refused a weak, repetitive deal made to give the Tehran regime a lifeline without solving the nuclear problem. The crisis gained momentum on Monday, May 18, 2026, when the Iranian proposal reached the United States without real concessions, without deep guarantees, and without the kind of commitment that Washington demanded. Trump did not agree to sign a paper just to call it peace, nor did he fall into the trap of allowing the Ayatollahs to breathe, reorganize their pressure in the Gulf, and walk away claiming victory. The White House is putting the regime against the wall. Either Iran delivers something concrete, or it will have to explain to the world why it presented an empty agreement and then rushed to turn fear into political theater. I'll tell you all about that in a moment, but right now, you'll want to be subscribed to the channel to stay well informed. Real-time information with the best journalistic quality ever seen, following the credibility standard of Milson Alves. The Iranian proposal came through indirect channels, with Pakistan acting as a mediator after days of talks involving the Pakistani Interior Minister Mohsin Naqvi in Tehran. The problem for Iran is that the new offer did not bring any real change. American officials assessed that the document only made minor adjustments and did not address the central demands regarding the Iranian proposal. Iran wanted a negotiation with substance, with detail, and with verifiable commitment. Tehran wanted to buy time, ease the pressure, and push Washington toward a comfortable solution for its own regime. The American refusal directly impacted the Iranian strategy. Iran hoped to turn the negotiation into a simple trap, present a limited proposal, accuse the United States of rejecting peace, and use global pressure for stability to extract concessions. Trump didn't play that game. The response circulating in Washington was that if Tehran didn't accept serious and detailed talks about the core of the problem, the crisis could return to a much harsher phase. This took away Iran's advantage of posturing and put the regime before a bitter choice to give up something real or face new pressure. In this context, Tehran intensified the spectacle in the Strait of Hormuz. The regime launched the so-called Persian Gulf Strait Authority, the PGSA, and it started saying that vessels would need to coordinate their passage with this new structure. The attempt is clear: to show control, spread fear through the maritime market, and pretend that Iran alone dictates the rules of one of the most sensitive routes on the planet. But this move also reveals nervousness. When a government needs to hastily create an authority, open an official account on social media, and announce passage rules in the middle of negotiations, it is not comfortable. It is trying to manufacture political power while losing ground at the table. Iran knows that the White House is not treating this agreement as a symbolic gesture. Washington wants to go after what Tehran has been trying to protect for years: the nuclear capability and the military structure that supports its regional blackmail. That's why the Iranian offer didn't convince anyone, it didn't solve the problem, it just tried to repackage the same old position to make it look different. Trump refused because a bad deal would give the regime breathing room, economic relief, and time to reorganize its pressure in the Middle East. Tehran also tried to use Hormuz as a showcase because the negotiation didn't produce the expected result. The idea of charging tolls, demanding coordination, and turning maritime passage into a tool of pressure appears as a political reaction. The regime wants to show the world it still has cards to play, but this comes at a cost. Each threat in the Gulf increases Iran's isolation, scares companies, irritates governments that depend on navigation, and reinforces Trump's argument that Tehran cannot receive concessions without providing real guarantees. Iranian desperation also shows in the rush to get closer to China and Russia. Putin is preparing a trip to Beijing to discuss a strategic partnership with Xi Jinping. And Moscow is talking about signing around 40 documents. The rivals of the United States are joining forces because they know that Trump has put the real cost on the table. When Moscow, Beijing, and Tehran need to lean on each other as a bloc, it's because American pressure has started to bother them again. The pressure still goes through Pakistan, which has become a communication channel because the United States and Iran are not directly handling the final content of the agreement. The regime wants a mediator, it wants leverage. It wants time and ambiguous language. Trump wants results. This difference explains the current clash. For Washington, it's not enough for Iran to say it wants peace. The regime needs to show that it accepts real limits on what made the crisis dangerous. The use of Iranian propaganda also follows this logic. Tehran tries to turn the American refusal into a defeat for Trump, but the sequence shows something else. Iran made a proposal, received a negative response, tried to toughen its stance in Hormuz, sought political shelter in the alliance with Russia and China, and began to sell the image of control. This is the behavior of a regime that realized the White House will not accept a signed paper just to produce a nice headline. An agreement only exists if there is real delivery. The pressure is on those who sent the weak document. The immediate consequence is a tougher phase of negotiation. Washington has already made it clear that the diplomatic window will not be used to reward stalling. The White House can continue with military pressure, economic pressure, and coordination with regional allies, while demanding deeper talks about the nuclear program. Tehran tried to push Trump into a rushed deal. Trump put the pressure back on the regime. China is watching closely because it also depends on energy stability. And it doesn't want an explosion that makes routes, oil, and transportation more expensive. Russia is trying to take advantage of the moment to appear alongside Beijing as part of a bloc against Washington. Iran is trying to hide in this bigger game. But the crisis started in Tehran and went back to Tehran. The one who presented the insufficient proposal was the Iranian regime. The one who tried to impose new authority in Hormuz was the Iranian regime. The one who now needs to choose between real concession and escalation is the Iranian regime. Trump refused the deal because he saw through the trick. A document without deep change would only push the problem forward. The White House doesn't want to give Iran a strategic pause for the regime to catch its breath, reorganize its propaganda, and continue on the same path. Trump has already shown that the options on the table are not limited to diplomacy, statements, and closed-door meetings. The Iranian regime knows that Washington has unprecedented military options ready to be used if Tehran insists on pushing an empty deal and continues testing the limits of the United States. The return of heavy bombardment could hit vital structures of the regime, and a ground operation at strategic points also serves as a political and military message. Trump is not negotiating to save the Ayatollahs. He is giving Iran the last chance to back down before the pressure moves from paper to the battlefield. That's why the refusal carries so much weight. It forces Tehran to stop playing with diplomatic language and show whether it is willing to pay the price for true peace. I am Milson Alves, an international affairs specialist, and my purpose is to keep you well informed with the truth every day. The news links are in the video description. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and at the end, check out the comments so you can be even more engaged with the Milson Alves community.